So it's no shocker that we live in a world full of some really messed up people. I am not really surprised when I see certain things anymore, but occasionally I get taken back a little just because I see humanity stoop to a lower level, a level that I didn't even think was possible because I thought that we were kind of already there. And each time I'm proven wrong, which is really sad, honestly. It's unfortunate that we live amongst people who behave like this, who carry themselves like this, and who clearly do it in a way that sees them portraying like zero self awareness or accountability or even remorse for how they conduct themselves. That goes for people and organizations alike. I saw this case, and I don't know how popular it is. I haven't really seen like a lot of people talking about it, but I came across it, and the details of it were absolutely horrible. But before I get into the contents of the actual case, I just kind of want to give a brief overview as to who this person is and why what I'm about to talk about absolutely disgusts me. The person in question is Dwayne Owen. He was executed a couple of days ago in Florida, and I believe it's the fourth person who's been executed in Florida this year. And chances are, if you were executed, you were considered to have done something really, really horrible. And that's exactly what this person did. In 1984, this man, Dwayne Owen, raped and murdered a 14-year-old girl and a 38-year-old woman who was a mother of two. He has been in prison ever since, and typically, from what I've seen, these death row type deals take a while. So we're looking at about 40 years ago when this happened, and now it's finally being, I guess, quote unquote, resolved. And you would think people would address this with a bit of common sense, but that has clearly gone out of the window. And I honestly don't think it's ever coming back. And maybe I'm being kind of a pessimist when I say that, but I genuinely worry for the fate of humanity when I see stuff like this. The ACLU, so the American Civil Liberties Union, commented on this. Now, just for a bit of context, the ACLU is like some big-ass social justice warrior organization. Like, on their website, they mention abortion care, trans people's right to live freely, people's right to vote, and a bunch of other stuff, right? They commented on Dwayne Owen's execution, and they said this: the state of Florida never provided medically necessary gender-affirming care to Dwayne Owen, causing her enormous suffering and violating her right to be free from cruel and unusual punishment for the more than 30 years she was in state custody. I cannot make this up. I just can't. I promise you, like, I know that it's June and that, like, I've kind of been engulfed with a lot of the gender identity stuff because it just floats around, right? So it's hard not to talk about it. But I promise you with every fiber of my being, I did not see this coming. I did not. I've seen stuff like this, right? Where that douchebag shot up the elementary school, and I look on the media and it's people basically crying that this person who is now dead is being misgendered by the media. Not the fact that they just went into an elementary school and killed children. No. That's not the real issue. The real issue is that we're not giving them their just due by calling them the right pronouns. Well, if you get blicked up by the cops because you go into an elementary school and shoot kids, the only pronouns that matter was, were, and I don't really think that we have to have a long drawn out conversation about that anymore. But this was crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. And Twitter has a new feature now called Community Notes, where they give like context on certain tweets. Like if a tweet is made and it has some falsehoods in it, or it's really vague, then the community notes will pop up on the bottom of the tweet to kind of give a little bit more to the story of what was put out. So a note was added to the tweet. It said, in 1984, Owen murdered and raped both a 14-year-old girl and a 38-year-old mother. Owen's lawyers argued insanity. Psychiatrics for the state testified Owen faked schizophrenia and had no signs of gender dysphoria. His records indicate he exhibits sexual sadism, which is basically like the tendency to derive pleasure, especially like sexual pleasure, from inflicting pain on people. This horrendous joke of an organization followed the tweet up by saying, in legal papers she drafted, Owen wrote that she should be accorded the essence of human dignity and be allowed to become who she was meant to be before her death. No one should be killed by the state. The time to end the racist, unfair, and cruel death penalty is now. Dwayne Owen did something so horrendous, and somehow, some way, gender identity comes into play, and the focal point of like the whole situation for people and organizations like this is to ensure that we're correctly gendering this person. When that one person, and I only say that one person because I don't even know what to call people anymore. Everyone is something different now. So I have no interest in trying to figure it out. It's too confusing and there's too much going on to try to sit there and rewrite reality, to pander to people, especially people who kill other people and rape other people and cause harm to other people in any other horrific way. But when that one individual went into an elementary school and shot up children and teachers, you had these crazy people protesting, talking about how there were 7 victims. There were 6, right? Those are the people who were killed by the shooter. The shooter was killed by the police officers, but because they were LGBTQ2SIA plus whatever, that now they count as one of the victims, especially because after their death, now everyone's just on this misgendering rampage. This is the most mentally ill country probably in the history of the world. And I will emphasize this point, as I have emphasized it many times. When I talk about stuff like this, I have no interest in putting anybody down or attacking anybody in regard to whatever it is that you identify. That's the least of my concerns as to what somebody wants to be or whatever. Number one, because that's your life and you do you, and then I will do me. And then number 2 is just too much going on and it can get confusing to try to keep up with everything. So it's just easier not to really concern myself with it. But what is so infuriating is when you have people who commit heinous crimes and the headline, the focal point of the bad thing that they did is stop misgendering this person. Yeah, we know he raped and killed a 14-year-old and a 38-year-old who had 2 kids, but stop misgendering this person. That's what you're focused on. It honestly makes me sick. And on top of that, right, the cherry on top, which just kind of really did it for me, was when I go to the ACLU's website and the first thing I see is, hey, give us money. Give us money. Your cheapest one is $35, $50, then it goes to $75, then it goes to $100, and then you can give more. So basically what they're saying is, hey, pay us to be soulless douchebags to promote the misgendering of Dwayne Owen, as opposed to the fact that this scumbag did what he did. This is my problem, right? This is why the idea of a whole month dedicated to sexuality and honing in on people's genitals and putting a spotlight on who you're attracted to and magnifying how you like to switch between genders or whatever is something that is so odd to me, and is extremely frustrating when it infiltrates everything in life now. So we can't even focus on the case and the horrendous things that this person has done because you have these organizations and these people who are trying to make it known to not misgender. This is where we're at now. This is the world that we live in now. It's honestly sad, but somebody responded to the ACLU's tweet, and I usually try to end these with a philosophical or thoughtful message or whatever, but I mean, this tweet kind of does it for me, so we're just gonna go with that. Somebody responded to the tweet, and they said to whoever wrote this tweet, go yourself. I don't really have anything else to say.